What's up, everyone? It's Leon from Black and Irish here. We're back in the Gravity Bar as part of the ZER0.0 Gravity series. Today, I'm chatting to a legend in the fashion scene right now. It's Lawson. Lawson, what's the story? How are you?
How you doing, man? How's things? Thanks so much for having me here, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, no worries. I think when we were looking through who we needed to bring in, the conversations that we needed to have, we wanted to get, people who were doing things in music. We wanted to get people who were doing things in sport. Well, we wanted to get people who were doing things in fashion. And that's you right now. So look, we might start with we recently featured you in the Black and Irish book, Legends, Trailblazers, and Everyday Heroes, for the work that you've done in fashion. I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to you to be, I suppose, featured in the book?
Oh man, to be featured in the book is absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? Because obviously, growing up here in Ireland, I didn't really have anybody. I suppose I could look up to. In that sense, who were doing incredible things. Maybe you had one or two, like Sean Sanjay. He was on TV, and I remember that's the first time actually seeing somebody who was of color on TV, and thinking to myself, oh man, I want to do that. Yeah. But then obviously down the line he probably left, and then he moved on to other things, and then it's like you don't really have anybody to look up to. So to be included in a book like this, that's I keep saying historic, because you've done something that's historic.
Yeah, I appreciate
that is gonna have ripple effect for generations and generations and generations. Is absolutely incredible, and and a massive honor. And like sometimes it doesn't even feel real, because people still keep talking to me, like, oh man, I read your part, and congrats on the feature. It doesn't feel real, what I mean? Because like I think about it every day. I'm like, my kids are gonna read this, my kids are gonna read this, and so on and so on. Like,
brilliant.
You've done something that again, like I said, is gonna have a massive ripple effect for generations to come, man.
No,
so
well, congratulations. Cheers to that, man.
Cheers to that.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sláinte.
100%.
Oh, that's nice.
It is. So let's jump into then your experience in fashion. So I want to take it back to the early days. And in the book that your a couple of your heroes in terms of fashion were your parents. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. How did your parents influence your kind of fashion life? Yeah.
So my dad's a lawyer, so I still practice law. So obviously I kind of grew up seeing him wearing a lot of suits, and that was obviously a massive thing. And I mean, this dude was sharp. He was rocking, the Chelsea boot with the suit before it was even cool. And I look back now, and I'm like, we had a laugh about it last year. I was like, man, I'm rocking Chelsea boots with shoes. He was like, yeah, I used to do that. I was like, yeah, that's what I remember seeing it. But then my mom was probably the biggest influence, because she actually used to have her own clothes stores. So she's designing her own clothes, suits and stuff like that, and she used to sell them. So she was a massive part of that. And I mean, this woman is stylish. Even if you see her today, she is probably more stylish than I am, and that's where I get it from. But they had a massive influence on my in terms of my style and my fashion sense. And like, if a lot of people who would know me when I started in the industry 8 years ago, you probably would have seen me for the for a course of 2 years or so wearing suits all the time. Because I think there was just something about wearing a suit that made me feel a certain way. And it's like, and I went to boarding school where, we were taught how to be gentlemen, and the suit was the gentleman's armor and all this kind of things. So yeah, you would have seen me a lot in suits, and I still wear them. I absolutely love suits. There's nothing that feels better than wearing a suit and just looking sharp in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is. Yeah. I still dress like a college student. So as I said, like, I know we've had this conversation, but you really do need to teach me how to dress.
Listen, bro, I got your back.
All right, appreciate it. Well, you've gone on then to you started in fashion, and you've gone on now to work with the likes of Louis Copeland. Tommy Hilfiger. What was it like working with those brands, and how did you get started with those?
So with Louis Copeland, it actually started off in a funny way. I remember, like, there was a suit there that was in the store, and like it was on sale, and I remember going in, and we had a bit of a thing. I won't go into it because it's not that important. But afterwards, it was the manager who actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, sorry about what happened, blah blah blah. But look, we've actually seen that you're a blogger at the time. That's what we called bloggers, not influencers at the time. We love your site. We love your work. We'd love to do something together." And Amazing. That's how it became about, And then, 8 years later, we're still working together. And like, I almost feel like they were my family. Louis Senior, he's like a mentor to me, especially David, the manager. He's like a friend and a mentor, and like everything from whether it's business or whether it's just, how to, be a man and all those things. And keep in mind, these are my formative years as well, as a young man as well. So to kind of have those kind of like almost like father figures, and mentors was incredible.
Yeah.
And then working with Tommy Hilfiger came about, like, with Rebecca Burrell, who again has been a massive mentor and a massive part of my career. Me asking her one day, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I do a shoot for Tommy? She's like, yeah. And I remember the first paid job we did with Tommy, they paid me a lot of money. And Brilliant. I mean, a lot of money. Even I was kind of like, I would have charged less, but they're like, no. This is the work you're producing. This is what you deserve.
Brilliant.
So to have a brand that big, that's global on that level, on that scale, pay you that kind of money and like value you like that, man, it's incredible. It's that definitely gave me the more confidence to realize, okay, right, there's something in my work,
Yeah.
But also, these are the type of brands I want to work with. These are the brands that I want to have those long-term partnerships with. These are the PR companies and people who I want to have those long-term partnerships with because they value me. And they, it's not about your skin color or anything. They care literally about your work and they value that, So it's incredible to work with people like that,
Yeah, that's super. There's two things that you mentioned that I found really interesting there. The first was, asking, that you reach out and you ask someone.
Yes.
And that you spoke to them and like, I want to know how important is it to like take the chance and to go and speak to people, and then the second thing was then about knowing your worth as well and recognizing that, okay, I am putting out good work, so I'm not going to like undervalue myself and that. So let's talk about those for a couple of minutes. We'll start off with like asking and reaching out. How important is it to reach out and ask people rather than waiting for them to come to you?
It's super important. And, I think a lot of the stuff I've done, or a lot of like the big things I've probably done, it was literally me going and asking. But it was a case of me being like, well, I want to work with this brand. Okay, how do I go about it? I can either wait for them, and that could be another year, it could be another 2 years, or I can go and pitch something. And so, which is, again, almost kind of asking. But you don't know if you're going to get it. And this is where, again, you have to take that leap of faith, and this is where you have to be also confident in your work and confident in your ability to do something and then say, look, I'm quite good at it without being cocky, but I'm good at what I'm doing here. And, I need one person to give me a chance. And there's this famous quote that I heard from Jay Shetty, which I love. It's like, you don't need 100 people to give you a chance. You just need one person.
Yeah.
But it's asking that one person and, asking 100 and then that one person says yes, literally.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very important that you do ask for, for those chances because you don't know how many of these people are actually rooting for you and want to see you do well until you ask them. But if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah, simple as that, 100%.
And I think a lot of people have this kind of wall that they put up and barrier that they put up and say, oh, well, no, I can't be going out and asking you. Like, I need people to come and recognize me initially. But it might be a thing that they just don't actually see it. But then as soon as they do, or if you put yourself in front of them, then all of a sudden it can change in that respect. I might jump over really quickly then to diversity and inclusion in fashion at the moment. What does that look like for you? What did it look like when you were first starting and how has it changed to now?
So when I first started, man, I was probably the only black face in the room, and again, so it's a bit of a weird one because and I mentioned this in the book because, there was a time when, I'd have conversations with some of these brands and PR companies and I'd be like, hey, why don't you have more black people in the rooms and stuff like that? And had somebody say to me once, they're like, oh, well, sure, you're different though. These are a bit more, they're a bit rowdy or they're a bit loud or whatever. That's the kind of mentality that they had, which is completely untrue. You know what I mean? Just because I might sound a little bit different or act a little bit different doesn't mean I'm any better than any other person of color. Like that's it's just a really backwards way of thinking. And I think it is a little bit racist. Like in a
100%.
sense,
Yeah, absolutely.
So. And then obviously we had the BLM thing and I felt like things changed. Absolutely. I was definitely getting more work, and I know so many of my other friends were getting work. Like, you guys are doing some amazing things and you've started amazing projects from that and stuff like that. But I don't know about you, but I feel like after 2 years later or 3 years later, 2022, especially like last year, you can start to see that, the people who are obviously ticking their boxes and we're using us as, in a tokenistic way, they're starting to peel off. And now it's gone back to, again, I'm the only black person in the room.
Right.
So we've done a massive 180, which makes no sense. I mean, there's brands that I used to work with, and I know maybe 3 or 4 other people who are of color we were working with.
Yeah.
Now we don't even work with them anymore.
Right.
And these would have been like long-term brands you were working with, and like all of a sudden you're not working with them. And it's not a case of like you're not producing work, like, because you also have to understand, when you're a person of color and you're in this industry, I need to work twice as hard as everybody else.
Yeah.
So I need to almost prove myself more than everybody else, my white counterparts. So meaning, if I'm doing a project, 9 times out of 10, I was double jobbing and giving them double the amount of the work they're supposed to be getting. Like,
yeah.
Just because I'm like, I need to keep that job. I need to keep them happy.
Yeah.
So to see that do a massive 180, it almost is a bit of a punch in the gut, because it's like, oh man, you were obviously using me to tick your boxes, and you tick your boxes now. Now you've moved on.
I hear that, and it's about being able to recognize when tokenism is a part of it. I like to see brands and organizations and partners be authentic in their approach.
Absolutely.
And say, like, look, we either may not have been very good in this space, and we want to be, and we want to work with you in order to get better and to bring value to the community and make sure that representation is part. But I do think that there are other organizations that are very reactive, and they're like, oh, we might be seen as a non-diverse organization, so let's just get some people into the room. We don't care who, just get them in. Which is really problematic, and I think that's some of what I'm hearing. So I think let's talk about like some authentic partnerships and how authentic partnerships can be formed. What do you want to see when you're working with a partner or with a brand?
So what I want to see with a brand is again, first and foremost, like, I want to see you actually doing the work. And I mean, like, literally go do your research. There's so many amazing creatives out there. And I'm not just talking about influencers. I'm talking about like artists, cinematographers, stylists, hairstylists, makeup artists, and stuff like that. Have them at the front and have them at the back when you're doing these massive campaigns. I don't want to walk into a shoot and all I'm seeing is a team of white people. I'm not saying that it has to be, again, in a tokenistic way. No, give them the opportunity because they're good at it. That's what I want to see. But then in terms of partnerships as well, don't just work with somebody just as a one-off because you want to tick your boxes. Make it an actual partnership, because and it's funny because we were having this chat at a Black History Month event a few weeks ago, and like we were talking about the actual commercial value that you're missing out on by not having long-term partnerships with people of color. We have a massive community of Africans and people of color here in Ireland. Like, you're missing out on all that. And the thing is, like, if you work with somebody once, people can spot that from a mile away. That even if it's not, they might think like, they just use them to tick their boxes. But do more of it. Before you know it, you actually now have a customer base that you never had before. Coming in and stuff like that, and like actually buying into your product and realizing that your brand's actually authentic. You actually care about the community, and actually, start doing more work in terms of like mentorship programs and stuff like that. For, let's say, kids like myself who were starting off and didn't have the opportunities to have a mentor of color or whatever, or to be in the spaces. Start those kind of programs. Start actually giving back to communities, or start like community programs that actually, foster creativity and stuff like that. Those are real things, like not just having, your quarterly or yearly Black History Month event here and there, and then you're like, oh yeah, we feel great, we've done our work. Like, no,
absolutely,
do actual work on the ground. You know what I mean?
I was only talking about that the other day, in that it's like some organizations forget that Black people exist outside of October.
Exactly.
It's like they all just pop up out all of a sudden. They're like, oh wait, we need to, and that's it. Like, we don't want Black History Month to be just this, one month thing. You have a whole year to learn about Black history. You have whatever time you want. You can dip into it, and that you can like help Black communities to get involved with what you're trying to do. So we have a very exciting event coming up in the next few weeks. We have the Black and Irish Gala Awards powered by RTE happening on December 2nd, going ahead in Kildare. I want to know from you what you'd be kind of looking to see because it's a big night for fashion. It's a big night. People like to dress up. The theme is going to be announced shortly, but in terms of dress sense, what is it that you would like to see?
I think I want to see people stepping out of comfort zone and getting creative with the outfits. Like, black tie is black tie, but I mean, there's so many ways of you doing black tie, you know, maybe that's where you're wearing a dinner jacket, you know, maybe changing your shoes to a nice shiny loafer, you know. But I want to see people put their own stamp on their own style, because I always say to people, you know, your style is your personality. You know, it's a way to showcase your personality. So do that, you know what I mean? And whether that's accessories, whether that's like the colors you wear, or whether that's like, you know, the style of the jacket that you wear, get creative, you know what I mean? Again, show us your personality, and don't be afraid to be a true, authentic self. Like, don't just wear, you know, normal black tux. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with it, but, you know, show us your personality.
Okay, no, that's good. So I suppose it might be a good time then to ask you if you would be willing to come to the awards and host the best dressed.
Of course, man, absolutely. And I'm coming here for the best dressed award. It is one.
You're gonna award it to yourself. No, that's no. We want you and another person to come to the awards.
Oh man, thank you so much.
This year, Zeta, it'll be yourself and Zeta this year,
man,
hosting best dressed, and actually probably be a good time to give Zeta a shout out for another person in the fashion industry. Absolutely. Is there any other like people in the fashion industry right now that you want to give a little bit of a plug to that you see kind of doing their thing?
Zeta, obviously, I absolutely love her. She's incredible. She's the most talented person I've ever met, and hopefully we're going to work together in a few projects together. There's also Emmanuel. He is killing it. I mean, like, did you see that outfit he did with Dami? Like, I mean, he is very, very talented, and I can see a big future ahead of him. There's also Drew, amazing cinematographer, and now doing directing work. We work together on a phenomenal project there. Trying to think.
And it's not just the people that are like it's the people that are behind the cameras as well. There's a whole kind of industry there that we need to see more people like the likes of Itchy and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
you know, coming through and doing amazing work. Well, look, thank you so much for sitting down and having the conversation with me. Really appreciate it. Is there any upcoming projects that you want to plug?
Yes, I do. So hopefully next week, I don't know if we're on schedule, but we got the final draft last week there. Incredible. We did this amazing project on what beauty is for Image Magazine. My first big project. You know, wrote it, directed it, creative directed, and worked together with Itchy, who's cinematographer, co-director, and co-writer. And man, it's I suppose my announcement to the new career path that I'm taking: creative directing and directing and writing. Okay. So it's incredible, man. It's for your first one, and to have it published as your first one, it's unheard of. And like we have like a 2-month focus on this project, so I'm super, super excited for this.
Amazing. Well, look, again, cheers to that.
Sláinte.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on and having the chat.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.